Okay. It is day 18 of the Silent Hill 2 Remake Chem Hack playthrough. And Count Wolf with 1,000 bits. Thank you so much for all the love and support. Right at the very start. Thank you so much, Count Wolf. Thank you, thank you. Very, very much appreciate that. Oh, and we get Magdalene. Get our piano as soon as we load in. I need to adjust the game audio a bit. Let's turn that up some. I need to fix my controls because that just breaks everything when I tab out of the game. Okay. Make sure everything's working as it should. There we go. We're finally officially done with Brookhaven. It is interesting seeing how many sort of variations there are for this area. Between first arriving in the fog world, switching from dusk to nighttime while still in the fog world, the full transition into the other world, and then this like even further sort of corrupted otherworld version as you're exiting. Finally done, he says, before starting dissecting it again. I mean, I'm just taking a look at all these last sort of changes to everything here on our way out. All the pictures and everything are covered up. Let's take one look behind here, if we can, where the hospital picture showing the nurses sitting on the stairs and Mary was at. But yeah, it doesn't look like anything like that is there anymore. All the pictures, paintings, posters, all of that's like completely rotted away and covered up at this point. But we've now got an entire town. Well, maybe not the entire town. There's a lot of it that's not going to be accessible anymore. Got street lights breaking as soon as we walk out. Kind of showing how ominous, how much darker and more corrupt everything has kind of become in the town itself. We've got a lot more monsters, manifestations, wandering the streets now. turn this down a little bit more. I think I over-adjusted when I turned it up in OBS. That audio clip as soon as you leave the hospital is rather on point. Do you mean like that sound bite? Like the actual audio that was used? Or do you mean that the audio is clipping, like it's too loud? Because, yeah, let me know if things need to be adjusted. No text saying if Mary, is this way Mary's way? Ugh, I can't talk. Yeah, again, those little moments, a lot of the text, the internal monologue that James had in the original, just being completely gone from the remake. Those are some of the things that I miss the most. This is not, you know, it's not a perfect one-to-one creation or recreation of the original game. And the text is one of those big things that's missing. I miss James commenting on the hands, the painting of the hands on the walls in Brookhaven. I miss James commenting on the alcohol bottles in Heaven's Night. And yeah, the dialogue, you got some text, internal monologue of James wondering if this is Mary's way of taking revenge. He doesn't use the word revenge. His thoughts sort of trail off. But, yeah, I miss that stuff, those aspects. They add a lot to James's character and his mindset at each of those kind of critical moments throughout his journey. So it's a little sad to see that stuff missing. Up all these things. Got a bug coming after us. Got this super run-down, rusty ambulance with the nurses hanging outside. Stretcher just kind of falling out of the back. See, even behind that stuff, there's still the little sort of benches, seating areas in the back of it. Legate says, I remember first time playing through this section was a mess. The remake is combat heavy as a whole, but I feel this segment goes way overboard. I mean, it's definitely a lot more oppressive, especially when you're not doing New Game Plus and you just have like the super broken chainsaw, the way I'm kind of dealing with it. And Kabi-sama says, to be honest, the segment dragged on far too long without too much of anything distinct to look at or do. See, now that I somewhat disagree on. I really like the design of the town streets for the Otherworld segment as you make your way to the Historical Society. Because in the original, I mean, everything is almost identical. It is just the same assets. It's the exact same town layout. Everything is just the way that it was. It's just dark, you know. It's dark and there's nurses wandering around after Brookhaven. The only little differences and real notable changes you get in the OG are the messages in Bar Neely's. You get the new message that's directed towards James, along with the there was a hole here message. You get the you're going to a different place than Mary. If you want to see Mary, you should just die message. You get, you know, your letter and your wrench, but the buildings and the streets and everything else are like exactly the same. It's just dark. Now, I really like the music. I like the change in ambient tone. I like the distinct change of like cars being covered up with the medical sheets. More of these sort of bloody hospital sheet barricades really wrapped around like the entire city. I love the rain. So a lot of this stuff, I really like these changes. It's a much more distinct, different area compared to how it is when you come through here in the fog world. So like this is one of the few areas in the remake where I actually like a lot of the changes and things that they made compared to the original. But yeah, I mean, to each their own. If you don't like it, you don't like it. I'm not trying to change your mind, but in my opinion, I thought this was a really nice aesthetic change for this whole part of the game. Just effectively running through a long linear segment to fend off one enemy after another as you scavenge for supplies. It is fairly linear, but again, I don't feel like it's too much worse compared to the original. The original also had like some streets blocked off and kind of limited the direction that you can go. You don't have the return to Rosewater Park element that we have here as well. You're just sort of getting the letter and the wrench. I mean, you return to Rosewater Park for the Historical Society key, but you don't have like the new interaction with Angela and some of that stuff. So, I don't know. This is a Silent Hill 2. It's one of those games where I like the moments that are open and let you explore, but they're fairly linear games to begin with. So it doesn't annoy me, I guess, the way this is just kind of a long stretch, especially because how different everything looks aesthetically. But hey, that's the stuff that entertains me. I like just being able to explore and look at stuff and kind of compare the changes of these areas to how they looked when we first came through. Look around some of the buildings and rooftops as we go. Some of these are rendered in, some of them are not. Brookhaven rooftops, since that's sort of like a unique location, is not rendered in. Still got all these creepers crawling around everywhere. Ezio really didn't like how intense and loud Remake Prison is. OG Prison is much quieter and more unsettling. Yeah, the prison... The prison is one of those areas that I definitely agree with that sentiment on. Where, I mean, they're trying to do kind of a more modern, super intense horror kind of feel for it, which, I mean, I get going for that, but it does feel like a bit much. One of the things we were talking about during the last part of the cam hack playthrough was having those moments of release, tension release, and even levity to kind of break up how intense and scary certain elements are. That way, it allows you to sort of reset mentally as a player before the next big horrifying thing happens. Because you don't really want your horror game to just be constant, intense, you know, interaction and combat and horror, never giving you a chance to breathe because you become desensitized to it. And the prison feels that way. Prison feels like it's a little bit too much without being broken up into those moments to breathe, those moments to just kind of take everything in. Still creepy, still scary, but a little too intense. It's where you really start feeling the overabundance of enemies. Did y'all like the new Angela scene? So I really do like the new Angela scene, and I'm going to try to point out some details about it when we get to it. We're going to adjust some audio levels so that you can hopefully pick up on some details and things that I've noticed with that scene that are especially interesting. We got quite a bit of stuff to look at along the way. What's up, Shadow Noises? This is him punishing himself subconsciously. I mean, that was an aspect of the original as well. And they were able to convey that without throwing an enemy at you so frequently. To me, the pacing from this part of the game forward, the pacing, I definitely kind of prefer the OG compared to the remake. Not that the remake is like so bad it's unplayable or anything, but it does feel a little bit stretched out with a little bit too much unnecessary combat. But again, I really love just going through these environments in the remake, especially just kind of looking at all of this. I love the darker, more deteriorated look of the Otherworld city streets. No, it's purgatory. It's definitely not purgatory. Developers have stated that all the characters are intended to be real and alive, with an exception of Maria, who's a manifestation of the town. But they are not lost souls living in, purgatory or anything like that. At least not as it was intended by the original developers. But Bloober Team, for the remake, definitely left a lot of things more open and ambiguous compared to the OG, because they have straight up said in interviews that they wanted to allow for players' fan theories from over the years. Like, there's been a ton of fan theories that don't necessarily line up with what the developers, original Team Silent developers, intended. But Bloober Team wanted to still include elements of the remake that allowed players who enjoyed those fan theories to still sort of think about them in terms of the way that the remake was presented. So that's why you've got more things hinting to the loop theory, which was a thing with the original. That's why you've got references to like Maria doing, starting off like she's going to do a pole dance in Heaven's Night. That was an old rumor from back in the day. That's why you've got a segment where you drag the great knife through a hallway of mannequin legs that move out of your way after having watched a segment where Pyramid Head does the same thing. There used to be an old rumor where if you turned off your flashlight and dragged the great knife around, monsters would get out of your way because they think you're Pyramid Head. All of these things are not true. They were just fan rumors and theories from back in the day, but Bloober included those moments in the remake as references to those fan theories. It's something that they intentionally did. They straight up said in some interviews that they were trying to leave things open and that they did a ton of research on theories that even they did not like. Even it was theories that even the Bloober team devs themselves did not enjoy or believe in, but they still wanted to include them for those fans who like those ideas. Was there any reference to the theory James looking at the player in the bathroom? I mean, as far as I'm aware, no. There definitely are some weird facial animations if you cam hack during that cutscene. So the cam hack mod that I'm using doesn't work during cutscenes, but I've seen some other fans use an Unreal Engine hack where you can manipulate the camera even during cutscenes and stuff in order to show James's face when it's out of view during that intro bathroom scene cutscene. And I don't know if it's just like the weird animations and stuff, because there's a lot of weird animation stuff that goes on when it's like not on camera. That's not intentional. It's just they don't need to bother fixing weird rigging problems and animation problems if something is not meant to be viewable to the player normally. So James has these weird like face twitches during that scene, and of course you've got some fans who read a little bit too deeply into that kind of stuff, but hey, that's the Silent Hill fandom that we know and love. Reading too deeply into things. I'm guilty of it. I've spent a lot of years playing and researching these games and analyzing them. Basically 26 years at this point. And I've gone through that phase of my life already of over-analyzing and kind of overthinking things. And I've reached a more point of realistic clarity now, and for the last several years of kind of understanding intent, developer intent and intentions a lot more than just coincidental animations, limits of resources, things that are the way they are just for the sake of being weird or creepy without deeper meaning. Those are things that you have to kind of learn to accept are a part of this series. And when you're a super obsessive fan who kind of overanalyzes everything for so long, it can take you quite a long time before reaching that point of understanding and accepting not everything is that deep, you know? Oliver 137, thank you so much for the Prime resub. Welcome back. Didn't Ito say the bathroom scene was just the default look, but was just read in too deeply? Yeah, Ito completely debunked the bathroom thing. James is not looking at the player. It's literally just the camera shot and the lighting and the way the model looks for the CG. Ito said if it was something that was meant to be intentional, it would have been made more obvious. So it's not something that that was intended by the developers. It was literally just a fan brightening up a scene and reading way too much into the eye positions of a character model. It happens. The same way we've had fans like Rachel Ashman thinking that the reflections in James's eyes were intentional because they don't show Maria, and they're proof that Bloober put in this extremely subtle detail to show that Maria is a manifestation. And in actuality, if you just look at the way the game engine works visually, reflections don't work that way. There are dynamic reflections on characters' eyes. You can see this alleyway and the light sources in Laura's eyeballs reflected, but they don't reflect interactable items like health drinks or items that you can pick up and look at, and they don't reflect character models of any kind. Now, that's the sort of thing that if I had discovered that detail, I would not immediately go and post it as like, look at this incredibly subtle detail that Bloober did with full intention. What I would do, and what I have done, is I would open up my mod and I would look at several different scenes where there are multiple character models looking at each other and see the way the reflections function for characters who are confirmed to be real, such as Eddie and Angela. And if Maria not being in the reflections of somebody's eyes was an exception to a detail that was in the game, in something as subtle as characters' eyes reflections, that would be something where you can say this was intentional. They went out of their way to make went out of their way to make everyone's eyes reflect other characters except for her, that would show more intention. But that's not the case. So it's one of those things where when you look at information like that, especially coming from people in the community, there's a lot of people like that particular fan who will just straight up post stuff for clout. They like being popular. They like getting people to like and retweet their things on Twitter or upvote their posts on Reddit. So they will be disingenuous about how they present information. There's a lot of people like that on the internet these days. You can't just believe everything at face value. Even me. I get shit wrong all the time. I never intentionally go out of my way to present something in a false light or in a deceptive way just for popularity. Shit. Look at how small my channel is still after 10 years of doing this. Trust me, I could probably be 100 times bigger if I used that methodology to present things in a disingenuous way, but I don't. I present things as I find them. I present my research and findings simply as they are. And when I get things wrong, I try to go out of my way to make sure to correct myself and let people know I was wrong. Here is the actual correct information. Because there's plenty of stuff I've been wrong about over the years when it comes to my story playthroughs and information that I've talked about. Like Silent Hill 3, the laughing, smiling mouth, it's not Marilyn Monroe. I asked Masahiro Ito about it directly on Twitter, and he said that he painted it without any references. It's not Lisa, it's not Marilyn Monroe. I used to think it was Lisa because it was very similar to Lisa's mouth on the soundtrack. It's not. I used to think it was Marilyn Monroe because it's very similar to a very iconic photo of Marilyn Monroe laughing. It's not. And that was after asking the developer himself about it. So it's stuff like that where now when I do story playthroughs and I talk about those things, I try to go out of my way to be like, hey, I talked about this stuff before. I was wrong. Here's the actual information. There's no poster of Cammy White from Street Fighter in the original game's Heaven's Night. I was just seeing things that were not there in a random poster texture. So I get stuff wrong. I admit it. But a lot of fans in this community have a difficult time with that. They don't want to be wrong, especially if their idea or theory is something that became popular. So instead they'll double down on their incorrect information and they'll gaslight people and argue with people who disagree. It's a bad look. It's a bad look. But there's always going to be people like that. Their ego is more important to them than accurate information. For me, accuracy is paramount. The way I approach these games, the way I approach analyzing them, the way I approach doing my research on them, is to provide as accurate of a portrayal of the information as I can possibly get from information within the games themselves, information from interviews with the developers, information from supplementary materials, and all of that taken into consideration with each other. Do you have that tweet? So I deleted my Twitter for what should be fairly obvious reasons. I try not to make use of platforms run by, people like Elon Musk and what he represents. So, unfortunately, a lot of those interactions and tweets and things are gone. And I don't know if I've got screenshots of it or anything from when that interaction happened. Because there's been a few times where I've interacted with people directly on Twitter to clarify information. I've talked to Ito a few times. I've talked to Roger Avery, who was the co-script writer for the first Silent Hill movie. I had some conversations with him to clarify a lot of the Centralia misinformation. So, stuff like that. That's what you call a fake fan, spreading misinformation and doubling down on it when being called out on. I wouldn't go that far. I wouldn't go that far, Bobs. So, in the case of somebody like Rachel Ashman, I don't doubt that she is a legitimate obsessive fan, not too dissimilar from myself when it comes to this series, especially with Silent Hill 2 Remake, because she's put in a lot of genuine effort and work into pulling assets and viewing things and posting a lot of her findings. A lot of the stuff that she found was a big inspiration for why I'm doing this cam hack playthrough myself in the first place. So that stuff takes... You have to be a real fan to like want to dig that deeply in the first place. What I think is that people are easily corrupted by money and popularity. Very simple, tale as old as time. People get a little bit of money, get a little bit of popularity, and it goes to their heads. And then all of a sudden they care more about maintaining that popularity rather than the passion that drove them to do that research in the first place. You start caring more about your Twitter follower count and your upvotes on Reddit posts, so much so that you're going to argue with people when they call you out on something that's incorrect. Like, that's when things get ridiculous. The same way you could make that argument for Alex Shepard, the former Silent Hill Wiki administrator, who infamously posted several edits to the Silent Hill 4 wiki claiming that Walter Sullivan was a victim of genital mutilation and circumcision, and how Silent Hill 4 is all about the atrocities of American culture and circumcision and all of this and all of that. Like, that person was one of the most highly regarded and contributed the most to the Silent Hill Wiki over many years. They went out of their way to post a lot of very particular, specific, and accurate information, and then somewhere along the line got so caught up in their own, I don't know, false sense of morality that they just had to drive home this point that simply was not true. And instead of just admitting that they were wrong, they would go out of their way to argue and re-edit the wiki and try to get rid of moderators who disagreed with him and like all this crazy stuff because they cared more about their position as like this well-regarded administrator rather than providing just accurate information anymore. They cared more about this cause that they wanted to fight for than just posting necessary, accurate Silent Hill information. It's also a big reason why the Silent Hill Wiki for the longest time was like not really a great source of information. It's much better these days. But for a long time it was filled with administrators and moderators with similar mindsets, not quite as extreme as Alex Shepard, but people who still presented their theories and interpretations on a wiki as fact, and would just argue and insult anybody who dared to descend against them. So that's the kind of stuff that is just like, it goes too far. It goes way too far. People at that point, you're not caring about the integrity of the information you're presenting. You care more about feeling like you're right and having people agree with you, which should not be the driving force in what you do. That should not be what you strive for. Not to mention talking to Masahiro Ito like that on Twitter. Yeah, some people take it even further and try and argue with the developers themselves. I mean, there are so many game series out there that are just as mysterious and ambiguous and interesting as Silent Hill games. And the developers are completely behind the scenes. They don't have social media. They don't interact with fans. We are very, very lucky as fans of Silent Hill to have people like Masahiro Ito, Masashi Tsuboyama, Keiichiro Toyama, Hiroko Usuda. There's a lot of members of the original development team who are active on social media, or in like Usuda-san's case, who even stream on Twitch, that we can ask questions to and get answers about these games. Because so many games, especially Japanese developed games, the developers are just, you know, they're ghosts. You don't get to interact with them. You don't get to ask questions. They do the rare like interview every once in a while, but outside of that, you never hear from them. So we're very, very lucky. We're very privileged as Silent Hill fans to have somebody like Ito, who is not only active on social media and stuff like that, but willing to talk to and interact with fans as much as he does, especially after all these years and people arguing with him and saying horrible stuff about him and everything else. The fact that he still maintains a presence after all this time, like, says a lot. So definitely shouldn't argue with developers just because they disagree with you on your head canon. It's so childish. Them polygons, baby. The sheets on these chairs. Ito's a good guy. Ito is a good guy. As said, I've asked him questions and had little interactions with him, and he's always been super polite and answered my questions. And again, a lot of developers are not like that. Pretty much every Silent Hill developer who I've ever contacted and talked to through social media or anything has been really cool. And that includes a lot of developers that the fans, especially within the Silent Hill fandom, go out of their way to hate on. People like Tom Hewlett. Even I'm guilty of kind of slinging too much dirt towards Tom than what he deserves. Tom, to be fair, had gone out of his way back during the Downpour HD collection era of going on Silent Hill forums and posting a lot of his own thoughts and opinions towards fans that he probably shouldn't have, which is what drew a lot of fan ire towards him. But Tom has been super nice anytime I've asked him anything, super open about the games and things that he's worked on, and answering questions and stuff that I've proposed to him, as well as Patrick Duty, who was one of the main lead writers for Silent Hill Homecoming. Really cool guy who, again, answers fans, answers questions. Your eyes tell it's not me. So many days. Yesterday, Oliver's night. Tearful time. Mechanical flower. The careless kiss. Andy G. Harvey. Sunless eyes. Random hitchhike. Not enough stars. T.T. Holmes. Looking at all the songs on the jukebox. All this stuff that's hidden under the sheet. The real Silent Hill experience guys are very guilty of sicking the fan base on him. Unfortunately, yes. And I understand their sense of humor was very rough and abrasive, and they definitely took a lot of what they were saying way too far, to the point where fans watching those videos took it way too seriously and went after Tom. Like, that kind of stuff is another example of just taking things way, way too far. So much so that they got mentioned in Book of Memories. Not directly, but it's a very clear, indirect reference towards Twin Perfect. But, like, I've worked with Fungo. I've done streams and stuff with Fungo and had some really great conversations with Fungo back in the day. And, like, Fungo himself, really cool guy. A lot of the stuff that came from those videos and things towards Tom Hewlett, like, that was not their intention. They were trying to make jokes, and it came off as too serious towards people. So, the Music Machine 2000. Bob, thank you for the bits, by the way. Thank you so much for another 100 bits. Really appreciate that. Hello, Hank TX. Hank, Texas. Are you looking for anything in particular, or just inspecting things here and there? I am inspecting everything. This is part 18 of an ongoing series of cam hacking an entire playthrough of Silent Hill 2 Remake. We're very slowly, very meticulously making our way through this game, using this free cam mod to look at every little texture, every little detail, everything that we possibly can in every environment throughout the entire game. So, we're 18 streams deep, and we're like just about at the halfway point of the game. I would say Historical Society is about halfway. We're almost there. So, you know, another 18 to 20 parts before we finish this playthrough. Feelings on Silent Hill F? I've got a video. It's like an hour long, but I've got a video up on my YouTube channel. The short answer is, I think it looks cool. I just hope the story and stuff ties into the series' established lore in a meaningful way. And the combat looks a little bit janky to me. I don't like the hit stun on attacks, where like every time you hit something, the animations like slow down. But other than that, I love the aesthetic. I love the sound design. I love the character models and the creatures, and I'm very much looking forward to it. But yeah, if you want my full thoughts, I've got a whole hour-long video up on my YouTube if you want to check that out. Technically 2 videos. I've got like a 3-hour-long video analyzing the Silent Hill transmission and the first trailer that we got. And then I've got the most recent 1-hour video analyzing the release date trailer and gameplay. Any meaning with the diner sign? Possibly. What meaning do you think the diner sign has? Agent 501, thank you so much for the bits. Evening Nub, thanks for all these streams. It's so much fun watching the lore and cam hacks. I'm glad you're enjoying it, Agent. And thank you so much for the love and support. Appreciate the bits. And we're getting more info coming up. Yes, in like 2 days, there's going to be a Konami presentation where they're going to be talking about Metal Gear Solid Delta as well as Silent Hill F. So, if possible, I'm going to try to stream that live whenever it happens. So, Lakeside Diner. The sign. Do you feel like this is anything significant? A, S, and I are the letters that are burned out. L, K, E, D, E, and then diner are all still brightly lit. I think it's just kind of a interesting visual set piece, personally, that draws the player in the correct direction while going through these streets. It's also just a new location. There was no lakeside diner like this in the original Silent Hill 2. The diner itself, the way it's modeled, looks very similar to the diner at the intro part of Silent Hill Downpour. And I do feel there are a lot of things in these games, specifically in this remake, that are designed in such a way to sort of reference or bring to mind aspects of other games in the series, not just the original Silent Hill 2, but references to Homecoming, Silent Hill 1, Silent Hill 3. There's a very direct reference to Silent Hill 3 in the hotel, or in the motel, Jack's Inn, where it's a recreation of the motel room that Douglas and Heather stayed in Silent Hill 3, which we'll be revisiting soon because it's going to be different now that we're in the other world. There's a new little Easter egg there. So there's a lot of things like that that are designed, I think, specifically to kind of invoke memories of the other Silent Hill games. And this very, very much reminds me of the diner at the beginning of Downpour. Thought it could be something like BO2 Zombie Diner, where it spelled out something. I mean, there are cases where that is a thing. We're actually going to come up to something like that in the remake that is only in one of the language translations. It's only in the Spanish translation. The lettering and capitalization for the one of the new messages that's in Bar Neely's at this point. There's not the same message there in English or in Japanese, but in Spanish there is a little hidden message. So it's worth looking at and seeing kind of how people analyze and interpret stuff. En español, sí. Definitely going to have to go back and watch some of these VODs. Watched a couple of your YouTube vids. Been down the Silent Hill 2 rabbit hole the past couple weeks. Yeah, definitely check out my YouTube channel. We've found a lot of really cool stuff for the cam hack playthrough of this. I've done a first-person similar kind of cam hack video for the original Silent Hill 2. I've done, if you've not seen my Silent Hill 2 Iceberg, very in-depth, covering a lot of different topics for Silent Hill 2, mainly focused around original Silent Hill 2, but a lot of it applies to the remake as well. If you feel like going down that rabbit hole even further. I've got tons of videos on the subject. Because I absolutely adore this series. I've been focusing on informational playthroughs and streams and videos for the last over 10 years now. So there's a lot. And Silent Hill 2 is my favorite out of all of the franchise, so this game, more than any other, I've spent a lot of time kind of putting my thoughts out there and doing playthroughs and just yapping away about it. We've got a school bus, clearly a reference to Midwich in Silent Hill 1. Even though it's not the number 7 bus, which is the kindergarten cop replica bus from the original Silent Hill. The 18-wheeler, possibly a reference to Origins. All these little things kind of sitting around the diner. No cab on the back. If it had the cab with Ambrose, that would make it literally Travis Grady's truck. But we don't have that. But again, I feel like things are somewhat intentionally placed sometimes, just to kind of invoke memories of the other games. Istran? Istran? Some of these we've already seen. The cans of coffee, the cans of macchia tea, the tuna cans. Don't know if we saw this. The Istran spray can, whatever it is. Even things that are seemingly mundane are worth taking a closer look at. You never know where you're going to find some interesting little details and Easter eggs. I mean, we found an Easter egg on the nutritional facts label of the ice cream bucket that Eddie was eating out of in the theater. So, you really never know where you're going to find some cool stuff. System. Any different license plates? So far the license plates have all been the same as ones that we've seen before. A lot of the same little Bible verse references, or same repeated, seemingly just like normal license plates. I don't know if there's more meaning to this beyond what it is. But we have seen 3ADW before. We've seen, I think that's another 3AD. Yeah, 3AD right there. The one on the truck was Lemagetton's Bible verse reference. We've seen that on some other vehicles. So, yeah, there's another Lemagetton's. Lamentations, not Lemagetton's. Lemagetton is another cult book. Before I misspeak here, because I was doing research on that particular book, The Lesser Key of Solomon, also known as the Lemagetton, goes hand in hand with a lot of biblical writing. And it's where a lot of elements and things for like Silent Hill 1, the Seal of Metatron, the Mark of Samael, that type of stuff. The Amulet of Solomon, which is an item used in the final puzzle in Silent Hill 1. All of that comes from the Lemagetton, the Lesser Key of Solomon. So, I've been working on the Silent Hill 1 iceberg video, so that's in my brain. I meant to say Lamentations with the license plates. Corinthians Bible verse. So these are all things that we've looked at and pulled up in previous parts of the playthrough. Sorry if it seems like I'm just kind of skimming past them, but I'm just kind of mentally making a note. It's something that we've already seen and moving on. Maurizio, hey Nub, I don't know if you answered this already, but why does it change from the fog world to this rust dark type of world? So, the way the games have been designed ever since the very beginning, they were meant to kind of mimic the sleep cycle, the human sleep cycle. When you first lay down to go to sleep, when you slip into REM sleep, and when you're in a full-on dream state. So in the Silent Hill games, you most often are going back and forth between the fog world, which is sort of like your light sleep, and the other world, which is your full-on REM sleep, or nightmare, or dream-like state of being, state of mind. With the real world sort of being the sense of being fully awake and conscious, although it's extremely rare across the series that reality is ever actually seen or perceived. You're almost always seeing a distorted version of reality. Either a very light level of distortion with the fog world, or a very heavy, full-on delusion like the other world. But the developers have commented that the changing of the environments between those types of reality, those different sort of layers of reality, were meant to illustrate sleep cycle. Oh, and she vanishes. No Mandarins until we actually walk in there. What did they represent again? What? The Mandarins? The new enemy? I mean, Mandarins are from the original. I guess we're about to encounter them for the first time in the story progression. But Ito has commented on stuff like that. The Mandarins being underground, sort of being under your feet, not something that is up and walking around with you, as sort of representing James's subconscious. The truth being something that is still buried. It's still below his layer of perception. And the mouths on their arms, and just the use of mouth imagery in general throughout the game, like on Flesh Lips, on the Mandarin's arms, in all of those instances are meant to represent Mary when she started becoming verbally abusive towards James in the later stages of her illness. She started lashing out towards James, saying some very nasty things about him. It's what eventually drove him to drinking and not visiting, because he sort of couldn't stand seeing the Mary that he knew and loved deteriorating into this sort of monster, in her own words, the way that she writes about it in her final letter. Nice name reference. Wasn't that a drug dealer in Silent Hill Ascension? Tassadul is the drug dealer in Silent Hill Ascension. The Blood Mage. That was Tassadul. We have an honest Silent Hill celebrity in our midst. It's not just a reference. Tassadul is the real deal. Actual star of Silent Hill Ascension. Someone summoned me from my slumber. I was just informing them of your celebrity status. Okay. But when we hear the sound, look at that. You can actually see the Mandarin spawns in. One second. I need to fix my controls. Please don't crash my game. It seems to help when I don't have OBS capturing, because it, for some reason, overloads my encoder on OBS for a second, lags everything out. There we go. Try and teleport James a little bit closer here. We can look at the Mandarin. Even the mouths themselves, like it is Mary's mouth. If you look at Mary's character model, that is her mouth. It's Salome Gunner's daughter, the actress. The same lip shape. The same sort of marking of the sores and things that are on her skin in the final moments of her illness. And the enemy design would eventually be modified. The original Mandarins, anyway. Oh, look at the curled up toes and everything. But yeah, this enemy design would eventually be modified and somewhat reused in Silent Hill 3, rebranded as the Closer. Wonder how they look falling down when you shoot them. I mean, eventually we'll encounter ones that we have to fight, so we'll be sure to take a look at them then. This one, I don't even know if we can fight it, because normally you're not meant to get this close to it. And it just vanishes. Yeah, it's just meant to be here to give you a little scare and introduce, kind of foreshadowing the appearance of the Mandarin enemies. But you're not meant to interact with them just yet. So later on, once we actually have to fight them, or have the opportunity to fight them, we'll get to look at them in a little bit more detail, their animations, what they look like when they fall. Was wondering, in the Leave ending, did James actually get to meet Mary on her deathbed, or was it another delusion of sorts? It's a delusion. Mary is dead. Her body is literally in the backseat of his car. Like, the moment you arrive in the town at the start of the game. That's a fundamental understanding of the story that a lot of players don't seem to grasp. Nora! The letter that James claims was his reason for coming here is part of the delusion. It's not why he's in the town. James killed Mary just before the events of the game. He drove to the town with her body in the back seat of the car to commit what's called in Japan Muri Shinju. It's sort of a ritualistic suicide, murder-suicide, where you take the life of your loved ones, usually wife, husband, children. It's an actual thing that has happened throughout Japanese history. That's called Muri Shinju. And the idea of it is that you still love them, even though you're killing them and killing yourself. You still love them, but you want to reunite with them in the afterlife. So you're dying together. So James killed Mary, realized he couldn't live without her, wanted to be with her in the afterlife. So he chose to put her body in the back seat and drive to the town, take his own life. When he arrives in the town's power causes James to have a delusion. And the delusion is the letter. It completely replaces his actual reason for coming to the town. He blocks out the reason for being here, which was suicide over guilt. Is she in the back seat in every ending? She's in the back seat in the intro, regardless of what ending you get. That is a confirmed part of the story canon. Like, she's there. Her body is here with him. So that moment of James sort of confronting her in the end, like, the town is able to manifest aspects of Mary. That's how Maria has come to exist. She's a combination of Mary's thoughts, feelings, and memories, along with James's own personal desires and wishes. She was born from James's wishes, which was why that's the name of the sub-scenario for the original game. But yeah, that is... him confronting Mary at the end is still the town's power. It's either the town manifesting her and allowing James to have that moment, that sort of moment to interact with what's left of her, her memory, her spirit, or it's entirely his delusion. That much there is some debate around. But her being in the back seat is a confirmed canonical part of the story. And has been for many years. He who is not bold enough to be stared at from across the abyss is not bold enough to stare into it himself. The truth can only be learned by marching forward. Follow the map. There's a letter and a wrench. Same as the note you find in the original Silent Hill 2, although you find it in Brookhaven. As you're leaving Brookhaven, that is the original timing when they give you this memo, along with the little map showing you where to go and get it. We've got a house for rent, which looks to be the Baldwin Mansion. We've got Quiet Cocktails, an advertisement from the original Silent Hill 2. Pete's Bolorama, family weekends, food, drink, great time. Another advertisement from the original. And of course, Pete's Bolorama, where the original game had James meet up with Eddie and Laura. You get the famous, how can you sit there and eat pizza line. Lake Toluca. Boat rides, 60-minute public tours, good shot of Toluca Lake with a little boat on it. Not the Little Baroness, which was a much larger ship, just a little tour boat. Spring Lake, boat hire. Toluca, here with license, save the date, and get on the lake. Go kayaking on Toluca. The Toluca boat launch, the Toluca Marina, which is right next to the Historical Society. Look at the dirt and stuff that's under James's fingernails. We need to take another look at his character model now that we're done with Brookhaven, see if anything is updated. And the Lakeview Hotel, it will be your special place. That's a new advertisement created for the remake. And referencing dialogue from the original in the remake as well, of Mary calling this her special place. And then we have some shots of actual rooms, renders of interiors for the remake Lakeview Hotel. We'll actually be inside these rooms when we get to the hotel a bit later. And a good shot of the outside with all the gardens and the design of the hotel in the remake. Because the remake hotel is redesigned. It looks very different from the Lakeview Hotel in the OG. The remake designed their version of the Lakeview Hotel after the real-life Stanley Hotel. The Stanley Hotel was the real-life inspiration for the Overlook Hotel, which is from Stephen King's novel, The Shining. It was also used as the filming location for the Overlook Hotel in Stanley Kubrick's film adaptation of The Shining. So you can actually go to the real-life remake Lakeview Hotel if you go and visit the Stanley Hotel. But nice little combination there of classic original Silent Hill 2 references and a couple things that are remake specific. The remake version of Baldwin Mansion. The remake version of the Lakeview. Go ahead and save it. I know we saved it, but let's make sure we've got something just in case I start clipping around into places I shouldn't be and the game crashes. Like up there. Also, this looks like there's a whole landscape out that way. Let's go see. Ooh, just some various out-of-bounds assets, parts of the barrier. These are a lot of the default, like, ground textures. We've seen a lot of that. Oh, we found a light bulb. Just out here in the middle of the void. We finally have a light bulb. It's not in a can. We still don't have canned light bulbs, which is our official white whale of this playthrough. We got us a cube. Untextured gray cube. My favorite. We have floating door. This, I think we looked at before, actually. This might be the layout for when you go down the big staircase and first enter the prison. in the Historical Society. Oh, there's like a lantern over here. We just made a save. Let's see what happens if we teleport James over here. Oh! Oh! It's Rosewater Park without the details loaded. Hi, Angela. I didn't know you would be here. Doing okay? Seen some shit? James actually mimics this behavior that Angela's doing right here, too, earlier in the game. So when you first meet Angela in the graveyard, she's doing this sort of repetitive behavior, calming behavior, self-soothing, of grabbing her own arm. It's also a way of sort of kind of crossing her arms, blocking herself off from other people in body language, something very common with a lot of people who deal with abuse or trauma the way that she has. Really neat detail. And then when James meets Maria at Rosewater Park, he does this same arm thing. You never see him do it anywhere else. He only does it in that scene after meeting Angela once he meets Maria, where it says a lot about James. James is not who he actually is. How he's trying to portray himself to people like Eddie and Angela and Maria. James is a murderer he's killed his wife, who's suicidal. He's very messed up, and he's trying to come off as normal to the people that he meets. And his best way of doing that is by mimicking other people's behaviors and adopting them as his own. So we see him mimicking Angela's behavior physically as a way of trying to portray himself as more normal. We see him mimic a little bit of Eddie after he meets Eddie in the apartments. And Eddie talks about, hey, we should, team up and try to get out of this place. James is very singular mind focused. I'm here to find Mary. Nothing else matters. That's his attitude towards the entire rest of the game until he meets Eddie. And in the upcoming cutscene that we're going to see with Angela here in Rosewater Park, James repeats some of Eddie's dialogue about sticking together and trying to get out of the town, something that he had never talked about before. Again, he's trying to sort of portray himself as somewhat normal because that's not who he really is. Some really cool detail stuff with a lot of the character behaviors that they've added for the remake. Things that they were able to convey much more clearly with much, higher resolution character models and much more accurate mocap, the motion capture and facial acting that just wasn't really available back in 2000, 2001 when the original game was developed. Like, they still had mocap, but it was a lot more basic, a lot more rudimentary. Yeah, it's a subconscious behavior. He's not doing it consciously, Q-Dog. Well, before we start looking around here too much, I just wanted to clip out of bounds and look at some of these environments. And I'm going to do it again. Let's go back out there. We now know that that lamppost right here, this is all Rosewater Park. So where was the door? Whoa, whoa. We're in the void. Some more lanterns, lampposts. This looks like Historical Society entrance. Which would make this Nathan Avenue. Let's teleport in. See what renders. Look at that. Historical Society. Am I good or what? Am I nice or what? Recognize the location from the fucking lamps. Here's the boat launch. Right here alongside the Historical Society. Yeah. Yeah, you did. Bob, thank you so much for the bits. Appreciate you. Okay, so we'll make our way over here legitimately and then look around a bit closer. I just want to see what these areas are when we clip into them. So we know Rosewater Park is over there. We know Historical Society is off in that direction. I want the floating door. I want to see what that door was. Any guesses with the door? I thought that it would be the entrance to the prison. Here it is. I thought that it would be the entrance to the prison. But if the Historical Society is there, well, it doesn't have to make logical sense. They can put this over here so that you have room to render in this super long staircase. Oh. Apparently, we're in Rosewater. Oh, it's the tunnel? Oh, it's the tunnel door for this little transition after Blue Creek Apartments going into Rosewater Park. I like how it opened and now it's locked. Is my teleport broken? No? There we go. Ah. Well, that would be why. I'm like, why won't it let me teleport in here? It's because there's no actual collision for James to be there. That would be why. Okay. All right. Enough going into the void for now. Let's take a look at some more of the stuff just in these environments along the way. I love all the exceptionally vintage cars. The mishmash of like car models and architecture and clothing and technology, jumping from sort of CRT monitors and computers to typewriters, and even within typewriters it's a lot of things that are some more modern looking, some much more vintage looking. Makes it feel like it's just this big compression of time. It's time compression from Final Fantasy VIII. All these different eras of history, of the town's history, sort of folding in on each other, which adds to the ambiguous nature of when the game takes place. Because the original developers never gave a specific timeline for the original games. They gave, like, time in between events. Silent Hill 3 is 17 years after Silent Hill 1, but they never give, like, a specific year that Silent Hill 1 takes place. They never give a specific year that 2 or 3 or 4 take place. You get some ideas based on how events correlate, of like how far apart they are, but that's why timelines and stuff are strictly fandom at that point. There's a lot of arguments to be made. A lot of fans still argue over the time frames and timelines to this day, even though you've got developer commentary from all the way back to Silent Hill 1 with Keiichiro Toyama saying they wanted to be very non-specific about when and where Silent Hill is. Even the concept of it existing in Maine was left ambiguous, even though there's a lot of hints and stuff kind of dropped about it. It wasn't even their original intention. In the very first drafts of Silent Hill 1, it was going to be in Illinois, around Buffalo and Chicago. In early versions of Silent Hill 1, like the trade demo, the cop cars still have Buffalo on the side of them. And the dev team, when they were doing location scouting, went to Chicago after E3 back in like 1998. But eventually they started using so many Stephen King references and saw that Stephen King sets so much of his work in Maine that the location kind of shifted to being more Maine, New England. Read a theory that it's in Oregon. That's because Portland is mentioned in Silent Hill 3. That's where that theory originates from, except there is also a Portland in Maine. The classic Portland switcheroo, exactly. Exactly, Locomo. If anybody says it's from Oregon, that stems from Silent Hill 3 mentioning Portland, and people not knowing that there is also a Portland, Maine. If people say it's in West Virginia, that's because they've only seen the Silent Hill movie and didn't pay attention to details in the games themselves. You can narrow down a lot of where fans get their theories from based on what stuff they talk about. Absolutely destroyed building. This is the Saul Street apartments where we were earlier. You can even see some of the same assets in here. The couch. One of the rooms. The bed frame. The catwalk that collapsed when we were climbing up here in the fog world. So here's like the ladder where we climbed down from the roof. A little back alley lot area. The pharmacy right next door, which has some supplies and a mannequin chilling in there, and a nurse. Time to play another rousing game of Does it have collision? It does. Anytime I clip into environments, it's always like, it's like a 50-50. Will I be able to walk around on this stuff where I'm not supposed to be? Or will I clip right through it and fall through the world? Surprisingly, a lot of these areas, even if you're not supposed to be there, they have full collision. Oliver, if James did what he did, wouldn't even the best ending with escaping Silent Hill just put him into prison for life at best? I suppose unlike Silent Hill 1, this game never had any sequel potential. I mean, I wouldn't necessarily phrase it as like not having sequel potential, but this is a story that is like, there's no good ending. Like, no matter what, things are forever changed for the worst for James. Like, Mary's death triggered a series of events that will either lead to his own death or a life of kind of pain and misery. Even, again, the Leave ending, you kind of think about it. Yeah, James gets to the observation deck with Laura. What is Laura going to think when she discovers Mary's body is in the backseat? What's going to happen to James once he goes back home, tries to explain what he did, tries to avoid it? If he tries to avoid it, he's just hiding from the truth yet again and not taking responsibility. Like, this is not all stories are meant to have a good ending. And this story is not made to have a good ending. And if you're going off of the developers, so the developers have said, like people like Masahiro Ito have said, they specifically did not give this game a canonical ending. Like, Silent Hill 1 has a canonical ending, but they didn't decide which one was canon until they made Silent Hill 3. And once they made Silent Hill 3, even then, Keiichiro Toyama and Hiroyuki Owaku, the director and the writer, went back and forth on which one should be the canon ending, either good or good plus. But Silent Hill 2, all endings were made to be valid conclusions to the story, but if you go off of the first ending that the team wrote, so they wrote the story, they wrote the scenario, the very first ending that they gave this game was the in-water ending. And according to people who were involved with the game, like the original James actor Guy Seehee, the in-water ending was the one that the team put the most thought and effort into. So it's not a canonical ending. They specifically want the endings and things to be left open and ambiguous. But the in-water ending was the one conclusion that they sort of came to first when figuring out how to end the story. That James finally does what he came to the town to do in the first place. He breaks free of his delusion, he realizes what he's done, and he does what he came there to do, to take his own life, to be with Mary in the afterlife, because there is no more life for him. Mary was his life, and she's gone. No more points? Points are gone? Hey, don't worry, they're scam points. The scam points on my channel are based on the influence points from Silent Hill Ascension. And just like Silent Hill Ascension, they're a scam. They're literally called scam points for that reason. They don't matter, they do nothing, and occasionally you'll just randomly lose them, and occasionally you'll just randomly get them back. The same way they worked in Ascension. So even when you think they're gone, they might not be. And even when you think you have them, you might not. Isn't that fun? It's just like Silent Hill Ascension. Isn't that interactive and interesting? And we've got the mail collection times. The side of the mailbox. climb through there just yet. God, I love the nurse design. Specifically this version of the nurse, rather than the darker, like, Otherworld version that's covered in bandages on their head. These ones that have the, like, latex... Even Ito describes it as being like a condom stretched over their faces. And their weird little baby mouths. Whoops. Gonna have to censor that on YouTube. But the way the lighting, like, goes through the head and illuminates it from the other side. Such a cool design. And then the Jacob's Ladder head shaking. Great animations. You can see the head like twitching and pulsing with something inside of it. Yeah, see, then there's this nurse. The darker, otherworldly, more decrepit nurse. Still a cool design, but I just prefer the head of the previous one. These have the bandages that are wrapped all around them that are like starting to peel off. They don't have the chokers on the neck. Got him. Got you. Got you all again. So easy, chat. So easy. Fall for it every time. How dare you bite me? Oliver says that sounds very valid, but also grim. I cope by thinking that Mira the Shiba Inu found a way to give James further purpose in life. Hey, it's fine. If it makes you feel any better, if we're going off of continuity from game to game, the ending that makes the most sense is the UFO ending. Just in terms of sheer continuity, it's the one that makes the most sense. They took Harry Mason in Silent Hill 1. Harry teamed up with the aliens and took James in Silent Hill 2. They're both in the apartment living together in Silent Hill 3. And then they go to Silent Hill and destroy it with the alien ship, which is why Silent Hill 4 doesn't take place there. And then none of the games after that count. They're all just officially licensed fan fiction. Yeah, and Downpour, they all get together for Murphy's birthday. In Shattered Memories, Kaufman turns into Mira. We don't talk about Book of Memories. That game has a joke ending, but screw it. And in Origins, the aliens help Travis find his truck. They let him drive the spaceship. Oh, and in the arcade game, the UFOs, the captain of the Little Baroness takes everybody into their own individual spaceships with the aliens, and it turns into Gradius. Silent Hill 4, James's father is mentioned, right? He's more than mentioned. He's like a main character, or I guess like a recurring side character. Frank Sunderland, James Sunderland's father, is the owner. He's the superintendent of South Ashfield Heights, of the apartments. He's the one who found baby Walter and decided, for whatever crazy reason, to keep the umbilical cord. It's a good thing he did, too, because that's the only way you're able to stop Walter at the end of 4, is thanks to that umbilical cord. Those crazy Sunderlands. Always picking up random weird stuff and keeping it in their pockets. That's just how those survival horror protagonist families are. Always picking up weird shit and keeping it on them. Oh, look, here's a creepy thing. I'll put this in my pocket for later. I just want to take a closer look here at the Happy Burger before we leave. Discount tickets for Silent Hill Amusement Park included with every Happy Burger meal. It's weird that they call it Silent Hill Amusement Park and not Lakeside. But same posters that are here during the Fog World. The Haven Taste combo. The Hell Wrap combo. Just a much more deteriorated version of the poster now. I'm just curious to look at all this stuff, because sometimes some of these assets will change when you see them in the Fog World versus seeing them in the other world. I just wanted to see if any of the text or visuals or anything like that changed. But looks like it's, for the most part, the assets themselves are the same. It's just the level of deterioration. Yeah. Main newspapers in the newspaper machines, same as Fog World. Rivelsticks, welcome. Thank you so much for that brand new Prime sub. Really appreciate the support. Thank you, thank you. Hope you enjoy your time here. Enjoy the emotes. Oh, we've got the Silent Hill Dance Company, which is not open during during the Fog World visit through the town. What do you consider, Roxy asking me, what do you consider to be the worst Silent Hill installment? Are we talking out of everything in the franchise, even things that are not necessarily games? Like, are we including stuff like Silent Hill Ascension and the movies? Or are we talking strictly video games? Because my answer is a bit different, depending on the parameters. Games, out of strictly just the games, it's Book of Memories. Book of Memories is the worst thing, if we're talking just the games. It's frustrating. It's not a good dungeon crawler. It's not a good RPG. It's not a good Silent Hill game. It's not a good Vita game. Whatever context you try to put it in, it fails at what it was trying to be. In all ways. In all forms. And I've played all 500 fucking zones of it. I've completely done everything that can be done in that game. So, trust me when I say it is the worst when we're talking just games. If we're talking entire Silent Hill universe, everything included, Ascension. Silent Hill Ascension is the worst thing with Silent Hill in the title. It's insulting how bad it is. It's written It seems like it was written by AI. The developers deny it, but I don't believe them because they lied to us about a lot of other stuff. It was literally a scam where the developers lied like about everything, about how it worked, about what they would do. They said they would honor refunds for the season pass. I've got screenshots where I tried to refund what I paid for the season pass for Ascension, where it was denied, and they refused to refund. Even after the CEO of GenVid said that they would honor any refunds requests. They said that influence points would work in a specific way. We have proof that they didn't work that way. They said that the community would influence what scenes would show. We have proof that it was predetermined what they were going to show. The performances were bad. The animations were bad. And it had absolutely nothing to do with Silent Hill. Like, the words Silent Hill are never mentioned in a single episode of Silent Hill Ascension. Silent Hill is never mentioned outside of the title. It is literally completely unrelated. It is a complete scam and cash grab. And an absolute insult to the franchise and to the fandom and to the people who made this series what it is. It is a slap in the face. If there was only the original player choice run and then an alternate version, they did the alternate version. After everything finished, they did a full secondary run of it that was supposed to be like secondary choices, where all of the first quote-unquote community choices were blacked out, and then you got to see everything in a different way, and it was barely different. There was like 3 words of dialogue that were different, but all the same main events happened. All the same fucking bullshit happened. It didn't change anything. It was a complete mockery. It did not deserve to be called Silent Hill. It was beyond just bad. It was insulting. Feel like I opened up some old wounds? You can go and watch the entire thing. This is the thing I need everybody to understand. If you want to understand why I'm so passionate when I talk about how bad things like Book of Memories and Ascension are, go to my YouTube channel. Watch me play through 500 zones of Book of Memories. See how much of it you can sit through. I'm not just talking out of my ass here. There's a lot of people who've played it for like 20 or 30 minutes on their Vita, and they're like, it's not that bad. I don't know why people complain so much. Play all of it and get back to me. You don't have the level of experience to have a proper conversation about it unless you sit and experience it for yourself. And you can watch me play through it, Zone 1, all the way to Zone 500. And tell me how fucking bullshit it is. Same thing with Ascension. You can watch me sit through the entire first month of it, where I was watching it every single day live. We gave up. I put it to a community vote if we should even keep following it after the first month, because it was so bad and so not Silent Hill that I put it to a community vote. I let my viewers decide, would we continue watching it or just give up on it? And the community decided. It was pretty close, but the community did decide to just stop watching it while it was live. But that didn't mean I was done with it. That still meant that I revisited it after the whole thing finished, I went back and watched every single episode. And then when they did the alternate timeline, I went back and watched it all again. You can watch all of that on my YouTube channel if you want to see that experience as it unfolded. It was horrible. Like, I don't think I could make something that bad if I fucking tried. Again, you'll have people who don't understand because they weren't there. They didn't keep up with it. They didn't experience it the way I did, the way a lot of us did. When it comes to things like Ascension and Book of Memories, like... But then again, we've got a very strange Silent Hill community as a whole. There are still people who defend the HD collection. I've also got a full playthrough of that, pointing out everything that HD collection like does wrong, straight up bugs and glitches and problems with the HD collection, and people still defend the HD collection to the death on like the subreddit and stuff. Like, I don't understand. The only way you could try and say that game is not that bad is if you have literally zero experience with the originals. And even with zero experience, you should be able to recognize when sound is not looping correctly, when things are not leveled correctly, when things are not textured correctly, when Heather starts turning fucking blue. It's like, God. I don't understand. I don't understand the community sometimes. I think it's just a lot of people on the subreddit who talk out of their ass and don't know anything. Bob. The boy Bob, thank you so much for the 100 bits. Could have had something better if they put more time to put more prompts into the AI. Yeah, they just didn't have those further advanced AI models yet. They just needed to refine their prompts a little bit more, and Ascension would have been a masterpiece, right? Yo, what's up, DSB? Homecoming is your favorite Silent Hill game? It's my favorite one to speedrun. Homecoming is, unironically, one of the most interesting Silent Hill games in the series for speedrunning. By the way, shoutouts to DSB. Very talented speedrunner for several Silent Hill games. Hope you're doing well, dude. Haven't seen you in a while. It'll get better. Just give it a few years. Hey, you want to know what the cherry on the shit sundae is when it comes to Ascension? It won awards. It won awards. Why? How? No, it wasn't Razzies. But the first one was from, oh God, I can't even remember what the like award committee thing was. but it was one that I looked up, and the Wikipedia page literally said that it was a scam and that they had been called out for people just buying their way into winning awards. Like, they just pay money to get the awards. That was the first one. And it was funny because one of the awards was for like innovation in AI, after the CEO of Genvid went on a whole tirade on Twitter because so many fans were calling it out as AI, and he was vehemently denying that AI was any part of the process when it came to Silent Hill Ascension's development. And then they won a fucking award for innovations in AI. An award that they paid for. They also won a Grammy for the music. Kevin Key from Skinny Puppy did the music for Ascension. And he got a Grammy. You can't make this shit up, dude. You can't make this shit up. I'm sorry. I've just been like ranting. I hope I've been looking at things with the cam hack that are interesting this whole time, because I just kind of blacked out for the last 30 minutes. I think my blood pressure's getting too high. Hey, Dulcibun. My night's going well. Except for the last, like, 30-minute rant that I can't remember, everything's going great. I said it as a joke at first, but now I need a 12-hour video of you shitting on the game. Literally, just go watch the entire thing. Go watch me experience it for the whole first month live. It's all archived. It's all on YouTube. All of Book of Memories is there. All of Ascension is there. There was a hole here. It's gone now. If you really want to see Mary, you should just die. But you might be heading to a different place than Mary, James. So people were trying to figure out if there's a hidden message here. Because if you look at the capitalization of the writing here on the wall, you can see there's like some random letters that are capitalized. Other than the start of sentences and words like I and if, you have really in really capitalized, you have L, you have A in the word want. But if you try to take them and rearrange them and everything like that, it doesn't quite make a coherent message. But let me see if I can find this in my notes really quickly. So here it is. In the Spanish version of the game, if you've got Spanish subtitles on, if you look at the capitalized letters, they spell out Quiero verte, Mary, which is I want to see you, Mary. If you do take the capitalization in English, it doesn't spell anything out directly, but it is an anagram of I need you, Mary, be real. So we have IRAMOUDEYEA, and then Mary's full name. I need you, Mary, be real is the anagram in English. We should be able to change subtitles on the fly. We can't change voice language, yeah, but we can change this to Espanol. There it is. Quiero verte, Mary. I want to see you, Mary. So some cool hidden message stuff with our new Bard Neely's writing that even goes across different languages. Great detail. So then I-N-E-E-D, I need, Y-O-U, I need you, Mary, B-E-R-E-A-L. I need you, Mary, be real. We can also hear Mary's breathing, the same strained breathing, like through a medical device, that we heard in the hospital room in Brookhaven, where Maria stops and lays down in the gross-looking bed. When you revisit that room in the Otherworld version of Brookhaven, you hear that sound of Mary's struggling breathing. And we're hearing it again right now as part of the ambience around the jukebox. And our little flashback moment, remnant of the past. This map sitting on the bar. That is the classic Silent Hill 2 map. They change up the way the town kind of looks and some of the street layouts for the remake. But this is the classic map with all the same markings. Giving you some ideas on where to go, what secrets to find next. The alleyway leading up to Rosewater Park. I will be right back. Give me just a moment. Okay. Sorry about that, everyone. I had to help my wife with something really quickly. But we're kind of at a bit of a stopping point here anyway. And this is about usually where I call it. So we're going to go ahead and call it here.